How do I get out of the rat race? Well, welcome back. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to discuss your question, how do I get out of the rat race? Well, I know that's a terrible graphic to even be thinking about. So let me start out by saying I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a counselor. I'm just an author and a publisher, and I'm going to tell you about a business and my experience of 30 years doing the same thing and how you could take advantage of it. I don't have a degree in counseling or helping or holding hands or sitting around the campfire chanting slogans. I don't have any of that stuff. I'm just going to give you a little experience that I have. If it helps you, which I hope it will, you can change. It's not that difficult. So I've been in business for decades, well over 30 years. And when I discovered the business that I'm in, found out how lucrative it was and how I could make money, well, I had to change a lot. So I'm going to reveal some of the details and show you how I make serious money in what's a little known business, but you already know that where I got it from because I'm really got involved in a traditional real estate business. I just learned a subset of that. So in this episode, I'm going to discuss how to get out of the rat race, which is a little discouraging even to think about the visual, but I also suggest you start thinking about how you're going to change your mindset. So first of all, you have to want to do that. And if you don't want to do that, then you can just go around pouting and say it's the end of your world. But if you want to change, you certainly can do it. So how do you do it? It's not going to do you any good to ignore it. So again, I'm not a psychologist and I'm not a psychiatrist and I don't have a couch for you to lay on in my office. But I can tell you what I learned. I learned by reading other people's books on what the heck to do. Now, one of the books I read was from a guy by the name of Viktor Frankl. Now, Viktor Frankl was a citizen of Germany, and he was a Jewish citizen in the Nazi era. And that was, in the 40s and in the late 30s and into the 40s. And they had concentration camps, and they hauled these Jews off to concentration, and they just worked them as laborers, breaking up rocks, building roads and things like that. And they just worked them until they died. They fed them very little, and when the body just gave out, then they just died. And it was a crisis of our time. And according to history, maybe 6 or 8 million of these people passed away. Okay, so millions suffered and kept suffering. But this guy had faith. He had faith in himself, and he had faith in his mindset. So why don't you just think that mindset for just a second? He survived. And when I read his story, I was amazed. And let me just pass it on to you. Now, the question I'm answering today, how do you get out of the rat race? Okay, now I know it's an awful visual. All right, so Viktor Frankl said the guards in the concentration camp could control everything he did physically. From the time he got up till the way he went to bed, everything, the guards were there. So he could only control one thing. It's the only thing he could control, and that was his mindset. Now, there's the answer for you. He could control his mindset. The guards could not control his thoughts. So think about that. Nobody can control your thoughts. So if that's the case, a little positive thinking might go a long way. So think about that. So constantly think about what you want and how you're going to get it. So Viktor Frankl knew, and now you know, no one out there is going to be there to rescue you. No one else can control your thoughts. So why don't you change your mindset? It belongs to you, and you can change it. Nobody has to know what you're thinking, and you can create your own future, all right? You can create your own future, and here's what he did. Okay, now my life changed when I discovered a subset of the real estate business, okay? Just a traditional real estate business, okay? And then I realized there was a subset of it that involved houses, residential buildable lots, small farms, small apartment house. All of a sudden, I found out about that. So I changed my mind. You can do the same thing that Viktor Frankl does. Now, what Viktor Frankl did is he said, the mind works just like the traffic light. All right, it can go from red to green. Now think about what I said. You can change your mind as quick as a traffic light changes. Okay, everybody around you doesn't have to know that. You don't have to be rebellious, but you can change your mindset. If you're trying to get out of the rat race, get out of it in your mind first of all, and then that's a good place to start. So think about real estate. It's got agents, it's got attorneys, it's got brokers, it's got title companies. That's a traditional real estate business. I just found a different part of the real estate, a subset. And when I finally woke up and discovered it, then I had to change my mind. I changed from the regular real estate to a subset of the real estate. And when I've investigated it, what did I find out? I found out here was a lucrative business, was not glamorous. It wasn't like getting involved in high tech. It wasn't involved in getting in something that everybody was going to like you and admire you for. It was just a non-glamorous business where I could buy low and I could sell high. Now, how did I do that? Well, I got into the subset of tax liens and tax deeds. And that business turns out that of all the real estate in the United States, 1, 2, or 3% of it will go into tax default. Those tax defaulted properties are called tax liens and are called tax deeds. So I started studying what's going on with these tax defaulted properties. And I found out that the local government was willing to sell those properties for 60, 70, 80% discounts. All right, how could they do that? Well, the state legislature requires everyone to pay taxes. If they don't pay taxes, the state legislature authorizes the county supervisors, county commissioners to require the sheriff and the treasurer to levy taxes, collect taxes, and if they can't collect the taxes, confiscate the property. Now, what is the county going to do with confiscated property? They can't collect the tax on it. What are they going to do with it? They don't want it. So the treasurer, who's been authorized by the Board of Supervisors and the legislature, gets rid of the property. How do they get rid of it? They just get rid of it by clearing the tenant off the property, and then they sell it for 60, 70, 80% discount. That means you could go to an auction and buy one for 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar. Now, are they all brand new and sparkling and nice? No. Some of them are absolute junk. Forget junk, don't buy junk. But a lot of them will be slightly used and slightly abused. Some of them will be move-in ready. All right, so just think about that. So these properties are available, and they're available at 60, 70, 80% discount. Now, folks, if you can get an 80% discount and you can sell it for anything you want, you figured it out as quick as I told you, you can sell anything you want. What if it has a value of $100,000 and you buy the property for just pennies, all right, for 10 cents or 20 cents on the dollar, you could resell it. It's going to be up to you. All right, now the tax assessor does all that discounting, and then they sell the property at a public auction, and they put it online on their website, and they advertise it in the newspaper. And on top of that, the treasurer wipes out the mortgage. So there's no mortgage or deed or trust loan on the property. So now you bought a property for absolutely pennies on the dollar. All right, so the county treasurer has been authorized not only by just the Board of Supervisors or the county commissioners, but the state to do that. They do that in every county. All 3,000 counties across America sell those properties for bargain prices of 10 cents, 20 cents, and 30 cents on the dollar for starting bids. You can buy those properties and do anything you want. You can move into them. So if 3,000 counties have these auctions, that means there's thousands of these available nationwide. So that means they're in every county, all 3,000 counties. All right. So all 3,000 counties are going to sell them. If we add it all up, we're talking about millions of properties. Now, if you live in a county that's got a very small population, well, guess what? Small population means what? That means there's only going to be a few, maybe a dozen or maybe 100 of these properties. But in a large population county, there's going to be up to 1,000 of these. There's going to be hundreds of these properties available. So the auctions take place at least once a year. Or places like Georgia and Texas, they're taking place every single month. The point is, this is a big business. Now, some of the properties are not so hot, so don't buy any of those junkers. Just buy the used and abused, and buy the ones that are move in. All right, so it's up to you to learn how to do it. Now, let's use an example. You wanted to buy a residential lot. All right, when the county got the property, they got it at a discount price. They don't pay anything for it simply because they've confiscated. What they'll try to do is they'll try to sell it and collect the back taxes. So what if the back taxes were $5,000? The value of the property, according to the assessor, is $50,000. All right, so the value is $50,000. So let's say they put it up for auction for 10 cents on the dollar. So they put it up for $5,000. Well, there's going to be other bidders at that price. So what if you paid $10,000? So if you paid $10,000, that means you paid 20 cents on the dollar. Well, it's still worth $50,000. What if you sold it for $25,000? So if you sold it for $25,000, the difference between the $25,000 and the $10,000, that's all your money. How would you get out of the rat race? Well, you just made about $15,000. Folks, where are you going to make $15,000 profit. That's going to get you out of the rat race real quick. Now, if you really learned your lesson, you can go back and do it again and again and again. This is available in every county in the United States. Now, my name is Ted Thomas. I've been doing this for 30 years. If you do get involved in this, two things to be cautious of. Don't buy a property unless you've seen it. There could have been a fire, there could have been a flood, there could have been a hurricane, and it could have been a chicken farm next door. So don't buy anything you haven't seen. And if you have seen it, make sure that you understand what you can sell it for before you buy it so that you have an exit strategy. I'll see you on the next video.